Welcome to CIT Tech Tips. My name is Alex.
My name is Hugo. My name is Connor.
And today we're going to be showcasing a gaming PC build. The parts right here. We're going to talk about why we chose those parts. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
This is the Mutex Y6 computer case. This is the first thing that we will be unboxing. It is an ATX tower. It was $100 off Amazon. It has two USB-A ports and one USB-C port. It has a reset button, a power button, and then it has an audio port. Alex will open it now. It came with 3 fans, and it has an extra box in there.
First, you have to take off the glass very carefully.
You want to set it on a soft surface so it doesn't scratch the glass.
This is the inside of the case. It has 3 fans, as you can see, and it has all of the cables you'll need to plug into the motherboard. This is the motherboard. It is a Z790 UDAC. It has an LGA 1700 chipset. It has DDR5 compatibility, and it was $250 off Amazon. It has DDR5. It has 4 slots. It has Wi-Fi 5, and it has multiple USB ports. It has an HDMI and a display port. It has a 2.5 gig LAN port. And we have a 12th gen Intel, but it supports up to 14th gen. This is the motherboard. It comes with antennas, and it has SATA cables and screws for M.2s. Now we make sure that the motherboard is down safely on the static bag, and then we check to make sure all of the standoffs are off of the places where the screws are. This is the Intel Core processor that we have. It is an i9-12900KF, which means that it doesn't have any graphics. Also, people put in processor, NVMe, and RAM first. Some people put in the cooler as well. We're not going to do that. We're going to just put in the processor, RAM, and NVMe before we put the motherboard in there. We're gonna first do the processor. Make sure to be careful when handling the processor because it is the most important part of the computer. This is the back. This is the front. When you're doing this, you unhook this, you remove, you open that, you line this corner. You see how there's a actual arrow there instead of dots on the other ones, with the arrow here. Outside, you see how there's an arrow there. You put this down, you push this down, that will pop right off. This goes down, pushes it into place, then you lock it, and the CPU is now in. Now we're handing this off to Hugo so he can put the NVMe in.
This is the WD Black NVMe SN850X, and it's a 1 terabyte NVMe. It goes up to 7300 megabits. First, you gotta screw this screw off. You take this out. Keep this, by the way. Put this in. Then you push it in. Screw this back on. Well, first, take this off because it's a heatsink and it will cool it off. And then you line it up with the hole and just screw it back in. Now we move on to RAM. Here you go, Alex.
Alright, we're gonna be installing this DDR5 RAM. Total, it's 32 gigabytes. Each stick is 16 gigabytes. And we'll just be installing it right into the motherboard. Alright, so when installing the motherboard, you want to make sure this notch is leveled with that one. You want to make sure these are pulled back to clip in, and you need to make sure if it's like A1, A2, B1, B2, because if it's A1, A2, then you put them right next to each other. If it's not, you'd have to stagger the RAM. So which it is, you just put it right next to each other. You just push it right in, wait for a click, and you do the same thing with the other one.
Now we are going to put the motherboard in the computer because all of the stuff that goes on it has been installed. There is standoffs in the case. What you have to do is make sure that they line up before you screw anything in, because if you screw anything in with extra standoffs or not enough standoffs, it can break the motherboard. We know this from experience because of some mishaps. The motherboard is in. Now we open this, which has the screws for the case. You're gonna want these screws, and you're gonna put 9 of them in the holes, so that way the motherboard doesn't move, so it's secured in the case. Now we pick up the computer, we put it up. We're gonna open the other side. Now you take out the back. These are zip tied, so you're gonna wanna undo the zip ties, so that way you can plug in all the cables in their proper positions. This is the USB Type-C. It goes in here. This is the USB 3.0. It goes here. This is for all of the fans. They're connected to a hub, and it's gonna go in the A, which is this one. This is the USB Type 2, and it's gonna go here. Make sure that it goes in. If it doesn't go in, then you've put it in wrong. There's a notch there. Make sure it lines up with the notch down there, which is open, so it plugs in, so it actually goes in. These are for the power button and the reset button. They go down here. This is where all the small wires go. They go in here. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less.
This is the Chromax CPU cooler made by Noctua. We're going to be unboxing it. Alright, so most CPU coolers come with a back mounting plate. You want to make sure this goes behind the motherboard. Usually it's easier to put this on before putting the motherboard in the case. If you have the motherboard in the case, you can just move the case upright and put it on from the back side. Usually makes it easier. Instead, you're supposed to put these in, the screws in like that. You still want this side must face the motherboard. You still want that to face the motherboard when putting it on. You need these little plastic pieces and slide them on each one so the screws don't fall out. Once you put all the screws on and these plastic notches on, make sure those screws don't fall off. You want to make sure you have it facing down on the motherboard, and you just put it right through those 4 holes. Okay, once you have the back plate pushed all the way down, you want to flip the whole case. Alright, after you flip the PC upright, you want to get these 2 brackets, and you want to get this bag of screws. Open that up. We're going to use 4 of these and 4 of these. Okay. You want to put these in first. Start off with just the first 2. And then you want to grab your bracket and you want to have it sit right on top as well. Okay, you take your other 2, put them right on. Take the bracket, make sure it's put on the same way, put it right over it, and then take the screws, just twist them on. On all 4. And if it's not tight enough, you can use a screwdriver to tighten it. Alright, now once you screw that in, you're just going to flip it so the motherboard's facing up to make it easier to put the cooler on. Okay, now you need to install the cooler. When installing the cooler, you need to have thermal paste on the processor.
It will come with thermal paste if it doesn't already have thermal paste on. You want to add a pea-sized amount onto the processor in the center. Just like that.
Okay, once you apply the thermal paste, you can go ahead and install the CPU cooler. But you're going to need to take the fan off. Sometimes the fan isn't on it, because you need to be able to screw that, and that fan's in the way. So you just want to unclip the fan just by pulling this like bracket off, and it comes right off. Alright, now we're going to put it in. Just line it up, line these screws up to those screws right there. Put it right in, right over it. And then you want to screw them on with the screwdriver. Might have to push down a little bit because it's a spring. Okay, once you install that, you just want to put the fan right back on. And then use the bracket, you just want to push it right back on both sides. And then it's clipped on. Take the cable, just plug it right into the CPU fan port, and it's that one right there. You just push it right in. And then CPU cooler is installed.
This is the graphics card. It's a 3050. It's an overclocked edition. You're going to want to take it out of the static bag that it comes in. You're going to want to take this off of it because it's hiding the ports. Take this out first. and you'll want to take out 2 screws. Then you'll put this in. Put those like that. Push it down. Then you're gonna want to screw it in. And now your graphics card is in. This is the Corsair RM850X. It is an 80 plus gold power supply. It's 850 watt. It is for ATX cases, which is the Y6 computer case. Now we're going to open it and install it. It is a fully modular power supply, which means that all of the cables are not plugged in and you only have to plug in the ones that you will need. Now we're opening the power supply. There's a bunch of wires. This is the power cable that you plug into the wall. These are all of the wires that you plug into the power supply depending on what you need. This is some zip ties for cable management, screws to screw in the back, and then there is the power supply itself. Once you take out the power supply, move the box aside, flip the case so it's to where you'll put the power supply in. This case has the power supply in on the back. Sometimes it's in different positions. You'll have to look for a gap like this in order to know where your power supply goes. Once you take it out of the bag, remove any stickers that are on the power supply. You see all the modular things, so it's for everything that you need. Then you'll put in the power supply, line up the holes so everything has a hole. Then you're going to open the bag to get out your screws. You grab your screwdriver, then you put the screws in one by one, making sure that all of them are lined up. Now the power supply is in. Now you open up this. You pull out all of the cables. You flip the case. So that way you can see the motherboard. You'll need 2 8-pin connectors for there, a 24-pin connector for there. You will also need any connectors for anything extra, such as graphics card if it requires it and all that stuff. Now we'll put in the 24-pin connector. This is the 24-pin connector. You'll want to plug that in like this. These are nice cables because they are braided already, so you wouldn't have to try to braid them in order to have them look nicer. Make sure it is plugged in, make sure it will just wiggle. And then over here, there's the CPU ones. You plug them in up here. Make sure you hear a click when you put them in. Those are in, they're notched in. If you wiggle them, they won't come out. Now, you come around to the back, and we plug in the cables in the back. Plug the motherboard cable in up top. Make sure they are plugged all the way in. You hear that click on both of them. Now you plug these in to here, one by one. Make sure you hear that click. There. Now the computer is fully built, and we will plug it in and turn it on.
Now we are in the BIOS, and the BIOS shows you everything you can do without an operating system. It shows you the CPU temp, the CPU frequency, the memory, and it shows you everything you need to know about your computer. Thank you for watching CIT Tech Tips. Make sure to share it to all your friends and family.
And watch one of our other videos.